and welcome to the next episode of 5-Minute Serverless-First. In this episode, we are going to be talking about Azure Functions and VNET Integration. So why are we talking about VNET Integration? In fact, I got some questions from some of the viewers that, Vishwas, you've been talking about the consumption plan and all of the benefits of the consumption plan. But there is also a downside to the consumption plan, as can be seen on the slide here, which is captured from the Azure Functions documentation page. So as you can see, the consumption plan gives you basic inbound IP restrictions, but it does not give you virtual network integration, and it does not give you hybrid connections and all of that. So why would you need the virtual network integration? So up until now, our consumption plan based Azure Functions follows a very simple model here. So we have a function that is based on an HTTP trigger. That trigger is available out on the internet. That function in turn is calling an Azure PaaS SQL database endpoint, which is also available on the internet, and maybe calling a cognitive services, which is also available on the internet. So what if you wanted to go in and disallow access to our function, the HTTP trigger, from the internet directly, as you can see on this slide, and only allow people within your network to access the function? So why would you want to integrate your functions into a virtual network? Let's take a quick look. So first and foremost, you're able to access virtual network-based resources. So you might have a SQL Server VM running inside your virtual network, and you want to access that from your Azure function. You may want to lock down, and we saw the previous slide, you may want to lock down the function endpoint behind the VNet, so there is no public IP address. Third, you want to access Azure PaaS services, for example, Azure Storage or Azure SQL Database, over a private endpoint, which is inside a VNet. So these services are PaaS services that are available on the internet, but you want to access them over a private endpoint. And then finally, you may want to take advantage of services that may be running on premises, and you may be connecting to them using an express route private peering or a VPN tunnel. And you want your Azure function to be able to access these resources. That's why the VNET integration is important. Let's do this. Let's take a quick look at how you can take your functions and then enable a virtual network integration. Let us now look at a quick demonstration of an Azure function which has been secured in two ways. One, it is only available through the virtual network. So only folks or clients coming from that virtual network will be able to call our Azure function. And the other aspect of security here is that within the Azure function code itself, it is able to access virtual network-based resources. So those are the two aspects that I wanted to illustrate here. I have several resources in this resource group, so I'm going to have to search. Let's look at the function app. This is the function app that I've secured. And you've seen function apps before, and I'm interested in showing you the networking portion of it. And this diagram here is the critical one. So the inbound traffic is restricted to a private endpoint. And think of private endpoint as an interface that is based inside your virtual network, which is allowing you access to this Azure function. The other aspect of security that I talked about is the outbound traffic. These are all dependencies of Azure function. So how can I call from inside the Azure function? Maybe a VNet-based resource. Well, I can do that using VNET integration. Let's go ahead and click on that. And it tells us that it is integrated with the serverless to VNet work. And if I go in here, you can see a number of devices that are connected to this virtual network. And these devices are just private endpoints. And why are they here? In fact, I want to just call out the service bus endpoint because our function in this example is going to be triggered by a message appearing inside the service bus. In fact, let's do that. Let's go back to our resource group. Let's search for a service bus resource right here. And let's look at the networking. And you can see here that this service bus, once again, is also accessible over a private endpoint through the virtual network. So our function, since it is integrated with the VNet, would be able to interact with this service bus. So let's do this. Let's go back to the service bus here. Let's find the queue. Let's try to send a message to it. Let's just go find a message, and let's just use the Service Bus Explorer to send a message to it. And looks like our message was successful. If I go into Application Insights now, you can see that our Service Bus message indeed triggered right here. It triggered. This concludes a very quick demonstration of how you can secure your function, both from accessing the function and also from the dependencies of the resources. With this, we come to the end of this episode, and here are some resources. Once again, all of the previous episodes are available on aaz.com/serverless, and here are some links that you can follow if you're trying to secure your Azure function by integrating them into the virtual network. Before I close, I just wanted to tease the topic for the next episode. So we've seen the benefits of integrating Azure functions with the virtual network. In the next episode, we are going to be talking about some of the downsides that you may want to consider. See you in the next episode. Thank you for watching.